Hey everyone, I'm here with Courtney Mansell. She is a graphic designer and a web developer based in California. She's been doing this for about a decade now, and we're going to talk a little bit about her background and how she got started with Wix and Velo and graphic design and all these different things based on her background as a designer and a developer. So thanks for chatting with me, Courtney. Really
Yeah.
excited to have you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about Wix and design with you.
Cool. So yeah, I wanted to start off like, can you kind of take me through your career? How did you get started as a graphic designer and kind of what were some of the first projects that you were working on and what really got you started there? How did you go from working in the field to going out on your own as a freelancer? And yeah, can you kind of take me through your background there?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually started as a print designer. I was super intimidated by web design. I thought it was all just like way too complicated, way too technical. So I was just sticking to my corner with, just business cards and logos and whatnot. But then the day came when I needed to begin building up my own portfolio. And for that, I needed a portfolio website. Um, I shopped around a bit. I looked at a bunch of other web building platforms. None of them really worked. I tried WordPress for a while, just super hated it. Looked into Squarespace, even tried out Weebly, and none of them gave me the creative freedom that I wanted the way that Wix did. So I landed on Wix and just kept running with it. I think my first site built with them was for my portfolio back in the days when Wix was still Flash based. So it was like very dated now that I'm thinking of it, like full textured backgrounds, with like totally illegible text on top of it. So super great. But yeah, then from there, I just started getting requests from, colleagues, past classmates, family, friends to do websites for them, and learned that I really like it. And I actually like it a lot more than print design. And I was specifically interested in web design because of the flexibility it would give me to travel. So my husband and I, we both love to travel. And if you're doing print design, that's much harder to do because you have to do that and you have to be physically present, go do print checks with your printer. Whereas web design can be done from anywhere that there is a internet connection. So I was especially drawn to that many years ago in hopes of someday being able to do the digital nomad thing, travel the world and do that. And so that's essentially what both being a web designer, but specifically being a Wix web designer allowed us to do. We got to travel for several years, go to a bunch of different countries, live in really cool different places, all while just working from our laptops. But if I rewind a little bit more, your question was what were some of my first jobs or clients, right?
Yeah, just like how did you get started with graphic design, even back when you were doing print stuff?
Oh, sure. So I just majored in it. I majored in design at university, and honestly, less so the degree and more like the university degree, less so that and more so just the connections I made is what allowed me to go forward in my design career. I had a couple really great professors who really believed in me and got me connected with actually designing the booklets for our university's theater program. So those were my first like real jobs that I got to really show on my portfolio. So that was the first like up I had, and I'm really grateful for that.
Did you always want to go the freelance route? Were you working with different agencies and shops at that point, or shortly after school?
I was always very drawn to it and always kind of had this pipe dream of traveling and being freelance. But for maybe the first 6 or so years, as a designer, I was an in-house designer for a few different places. So that's where I got my start. And that was doing a combination of print and web for different organizations and a lot of nonprofits, some stuff in the coffee industry, a lot of really fun stuff. For a while, I also really what I might say was like my first real job that wasn't just a gig was temping, if you can call it a real job. And actually it was being a part of a temporary agency, like design agency, and like getting sent out to all of these different companies throughout Southern California. I credit that with like maybe the majority of knowledge and preferences I have now with the way that I run my current design business, because I got to kind of step in and sample how a dozen different creative offices and creative agencies work, and figure out what I like, what's most organized, what's most productive and fun as a designer. Yeah, so just got to really figure out what would work best for me and take that with me for the future.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely had that experience kind of working in an agency setting and then going on your own. There's so many things in terms of like project management and pricing and stuff that you need to kind of be in an office and learn before you go out on your own. Because I don't know, when I was a college student, at least doing development stuff, I just kind of didn't know the first thing about like the people side of it, maybe. Like I knew all the technical skills. I could do stuff in, Dreamweaver and Photoshop and stuff, but I just didn't know how do I charge for this? Like what is the industry rate and these expectations and stuff. So yeah, I definitely know the feeling there. When did you go out on your own as a freelancer, I guess?
So I think I went out on my own officially. I wish I knew the exact year, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I had been working as the senior designer in-house for a nonprofit at the time, but then finally made the leap to full-time freelance. I had been building up my clientele for several years at that point, but had like really begun investing a lot more time and just really building up a lot of inertia with that. So finally made the full leap, left that position, and then started working from home in Irvine, California. And then short thereafter started working from home all over the world.
Cool. Yeah. And you were still predominantly doing graphic design at that point, or when did the shift to web development come about?
And honestly, I'm not sure. It was very gradual. And like, even to this day, maybe 70% of my work is in web, and the other 30% is still in print. So there's still a lot. One of my favorite things to be able to do for my clients is give them a very like holistic, full picture branding package. So doing web and print. So I would say I've ever like fully transitioned over. It was probably just like very, very gradual. Over the course of a few years. So, but there was definitely a tipping point where specifically the Wix marketplace is what made all the difference for me to be able to do what I wanted to do. You were talking about kind of the business side of making, a creative agency happen. As much as I love doing the project management and like making the business itself run, having a reliable, constant stream of new clients and leads coming in is something that if I had to dedicate time to that, I mean, that would be like half of what I'm doing during the week. So the fact that I was a part of the Wix marketplace allowed me to just keep doing what I actually enjoy doing and not having to worry about, where's my next paycheck going to come from? Who am I going to work for next? The clients were literally just coming to me through the marketplace, and that enabled me to, continue to have work. So
yeah, that's huge. We talked to a bunch of developers here. We're all the time we're talking to developers who are kind of relying on the marketplace. It's a huge part of how they drum up business. And a lot of WordPress and alternatives don't really have the kind of same relationship with the marketplace like that. So it's really cool to hear. How did you get started with the marketplace? Can you remember some of the first sites that they came to you needing to work on, anything like that?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, my first sites were all my own portfolio site, and then a bunch of sites for, friends and random connections.
Yeah.
They were all horrible, but they were in a valiant effort to build up a portfolio. And at that time, I don't know that I was necessarily trying to become a web designer. I just had people who were asking me, hey, you like do art on the computer, right? So you can make a website. So I'm actually not even sure like, I don't know when those first sites transitioned into like, okay, now I'm doing just full-time Wix Marketplace clients. But it built up. I must have had enough websites in my account at some point that maybe I got a message from Wix saying like, hey, you have a ton of sites. Do you want to be a partner? Something like that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's really cool to hear that it's been, reliable for you, and hopefully everything on the communication side with Wix has been, easy and helpful as well. What is your, one question I had, when you, like, as you've kind of grown and stuff, have there been growing pains, like with, growing the size of your agency and working with subcontractors and things like that? Often we talk to people who work with the marketplace who maybe, just get so much work through that or through other routes or means that just kind of the size of their agency grows. They bring on, partners or other developers and things like that. Do you have any insight into how that has looked for you?
Yeah, so I would say as far as growing pains go, I think I'm experiencing the greatest amount of that now than I have in the past. So, and that's a good thing. So it's a result of me growing more and more as I, continue as a designer and continue as a business owner. But right now, the demand for clients is twice as high as I'm able to keep up with. So right now I do what's called a scalable agency. So I act as sort of the creative director and project manager, as well as like the client manager. So I'm client facing, but then I have a series of subcontractors, just some trusted partners that I work with, and they all rock. But I'm definitely in that process of trying to figure out, like trying to build that team, trying to bring on the right match and the right people to do the right work, so that I can continue to take in more clients and in a good and healthy, scalable way. Really, really grow my team. When I first started out approaching running a business, I really thought this is the story of everyone, I think. I naively thought that I'll just do more design, and growing the business means I'm going to design more. But instead, it's meant that I'm spending more time bookkeeping and sending invoices and like just doing all this like stuff that I find very, very boring, and that I'm just really bad at. So I've been so grateful to be able to bring on these people who are phenomenal at the stuff I suck at. And that's really where I think a great teamwork and partnership comes in, where for some reason there are people out there who love bookkeeping and doing invoicing and helping me with taxes. So I'm just really, really grateful for those people. And I'm really grateful for the way I've been able to find them and discover them through, there's a couple different Wix partner communities, and just finding them through that.
Yeah. So has that been limited to bookkeeping and like the economic side of it? I know you mentioned kind of working with developers in that capacity too. How has that gone?
Yeah. So definitely not just bookkeeping, though. I feel like that's the one I'm like most grateful for. Yeah. Besides that, so I also have a couple of developers I work with, a designer, and sometimes I work with a project manager. Let me think what else. That might be about it. Yeah. Developer, designer, bookkeeper. Yeah. And with people all over the world. So I have a great Velo coder I work with in Scotland, a designer developer in Texas. My bookkeeper is in Arizona. So it's a very multi-time zone team.
Yeah. The time zones are what always get me, just working with people across the world, but yeah, you can make it work. I was wondering if you could talk about maybe some of the sites that you've worked on that you're particularly proud of, or have, changed the way you've maybe had to organize your project management or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like every client I get generally is a step up and is a challenge where I have to really step up my game and adapt to doing business better, offering higher value to my client that I'm working with. Oh, let me go back to your other question. I just brought on the SEO person. That's very important.
Nice.
So SEO person on the team. Anyways, so yeah. And so for instance, I'm starting to work with a client right now where SEO is very important to them. And so that was the occasion where I thought, oh, I should have an SEO expert on my team. Because again, that's not a strength for me. So yeah, it's been really great to have someone who is phenomenal at that and bring them in. But yeah, so for some of the sites that I've worked on that I particularly love, or that have really caused me to have to up my game, which is always fun. Mm-hmm. I work with a lot of nonprofits. So one client I've had an ongoing relationship with for a few years now is an organization called Heart Global. They put on performing arts and singing and dancing workshops around the world. And these workshops are used to build social skills and teamwork and really great character for youth. So they do a lot of youth camps, but they've just been such a pleasure to work with, not only because they have this really cool mission that's really fun to get behind myself and to support, but the website itself has just been more extensive than any website I've worked on so far. It definitely beats out the page count of any other website I've worked on. And it really pushed me to expand out my boundaries in what I could do using databases and Velo, really seeing a brand grow and morph and expand in a really dynamic way. Sometimes you'll make a website that's 3 pages and you have a set brand for it and, a set of colors and fonts and the overall look and style, but it doesn't really get challenged a whole lot because it's just there and then we leave it and it's done. But with this client, because they're very dynamic and growing and all over the world, and this website is 1 million pages, we're constantly having to re-examine how that brand is working for us, how that look is serving us, and just allow it to be kind of a living, breathing thing. So that's been a really fun challenge with them.
Cool. What are some of the features that you've been building for them? You mentioned like the Wix databases. Anything else like in terms of Wix specific technologies that you've been working with?
Yeah, definitely lots of databases. Because they're international, we've dove pretty deep into the multilingual aspect of their website, which has been really fun. Just figuring that out. We have a couple pages in German, a couple pages in Japanese. That's been really cool. And then we've also used Velo on this site quite a bit more. We have a lot of pages that are interactive in some really outside of the box ways. But Velo has been able to come in and, let us do exactly what we want. And honestly, I feel like that's one of my very favorite things about working with the Wix platform is I, as someone who am not great at code at all, can have all of the artistic freedom I want. But then if there's ever that 1 in 100 thing where, it doesn't seem like just within the regular platform, maybe it's not possible. It's then possible to do in Velo. So it's just been really cool to see those things come to life working with Velo.
Yeah, totally. I think one thing that we've sort of heard multiple times is like with most kind of site builders, you sort of build the site from scratch, or just with most websites generally sort of build the site from scratch. You have to kind of be with the developer the whole step of the whole process.
Right.
With Wix, you can kind of start as a designer, sort of choose the styling and build out the site that you want with the drag and drop editor. And then as you need the complexity, it's there kind of as you go along, which is always really cool to hear testimonials about and stuff. But with that project specifically, we're working with subcontractors to do the code and stuff for Velo. How did that go? What was that process like for you?
So those partner communities I mentioned, I just put out a couple posts on there like, hey, I'm looking to do some Velo work. Is anyone here interested? And the community response was very like heartwarming. Like there were just so many people ready to lend their services or help with like if I ever had any questions about it. They've definitely been very there for me. Yeah, so got a bunch of responses and then just found some really awesome people that way. So now when I have a need that I know Velo can meet, I just reach out to them, explain the project to them, and then they're able to just pick it up and run with it and make it happen.
Cool. Yeah. We encounter a lot of developers kind of in the same spot. One question I want to ask, kind of in this similar vein, what are some of your goals, I guess, going forward with your agency and as an independent developer, and as you grow your business? Is growth kind of the big driver for you? Are you looking to take on more clients and grow the business as much as you can? Are there sometimes limits to that for certain people? But yeah, I guess like what are some of the motivations that sort of keep you getting out of the bed every day and working toward your agency here?
Yeah, so this is actually something I'm really excited about at the moment. Though I've been interested in growth ever since I started, 10, 12 years ago, specifically in the past year. I've really been pushing to not just grow in terms of numbers, but to really grow in terms of the quality and excellence that we're able to provide as a product to our clients. So, a lot of times it's easy to like think of yourself like, oh, I'm just a freelancer. I can keep the standards low because it's just me. But recently I've really been pushing to build out the business, as formidable as, any creative agency that you might go to, with like a team of 10 or whatever, so that we can really compete with them in terms of what we're able to bring to our clients. The only difference being that just we have far less overhead because we're a remote team and because we're a scalable team. We're still able to bring that same high quality, industry standard, professional level of branding and design to our clients. We're still able to do that, but just with a lot less overhead. So yeah, we're really aiming for that. I've been revamping kind of how we do everything. I have a huge folder in Google Drive right now called 2022 Rebrand. And this rebrand that I'm doing isn't just in how we look, but how we do everything. So we're rewriting all of our processes, rewriting how we do project management, rewriting exactly what we build into each step of our creative process, so that we could really compete with the best. And we're really offering our clients, this world-class experience, even though it's just a few people working on it. So that's been really fun. And it's so gratifying to see that expand and just like feel, be able to sense like the, I don't know, to be more excellent in the work that we're doing just feels really good.
Totally. And then maybe looking back on, the years that you spent building the agency and working as an independent designer and developer, what are maybe what's some advice that you'd give to yourself just starting out, or to other designers just starting out? Would you still pick up Wix and Velo if you were just starting out today? What resources would you recommend to designers, to developers, to freelancers that are just starting out and wanting to kind of do what you do?
Yeah. So I think I'd absolutely still choose Wix. It's been phenomenal. I would especially recommend it to anyone who is in my position where you don't really have a knack for code, but you still want to be able to do all the great stuff that code would let you do. Wix is a great solution for that. Especially if you're able to bring on coders the way that I do. But yeah, so as far as advice, okay, so kind of two separate types of advice I give here. So if I was giving advice to my old self, I would talk about two things. So the first one would be learn primarily not to be a designer, but to be in customer service. So in the position I'm in, I'm not just a designer, I'm also client facing. And so that means I'm in the management and support of people. So that means I need to be a great listener and a great project manager, and really help my clients carry out their needs and their vision for their product. I think when I first started out, any design I made was much more about like my own desire to create something that was like very artistic and creative. And then if the client didn't like it, I'm like so devastated, like, oh, this is so personal to me. But I really had to like kind of depersonalize it, in the sense that now I understand my design is not about me. My design is about my client and their customers, and you know, their product and brand, while at the same time allowing myself to get more invested than ever in that client's success. And just more, personally vested in seeing it be an effective and great product. Really learning it's not about making like art that looks cool, but it's about making design that is effective. Second of all, the advice I would give to my younger self is get good at the business side of design. It's not enough just to be able to, make great looking web pages or a cool looking logo. You need to understand how markets work, how buyers buy, what motivates people to want to buy something, what makes communication effective in the first place. And then just how a business is run, just from, my end, like we've talked about the bookkeeping and, all the stuff that like most, I think artists, when they're first starting out, they're not like, I want to balance a budget, but these are all necessary things that are just part of doing what you like. So that's the advice I would give to my past self. Those are things I did not know when I started. But a little bit more general advice that I would just give to anyone first starting out, if they want to be a web designer. So I would say two things for them. So one, I would say build your portfolio way more than you think you need to. Just like all day, every day, start making art. You don't have to get paid for it. You just need to make good art. And when you're first starting out, your art's going to be pretty lousy. So not a lot of people are going to want to pay you for it. Make art anyways, and just start stocking up your portfolio as much as possible, because your portfolio, more than anything else, is going to be your interview and is going to be your proof to the world of your ability to make something that's going to be useful for them. So make a portfolio. When people see that, they will hire you, and then you will be able to put their stuff in your portfolio, and then the snowball continues. The second thing I would say is don't underestimate the power of networking. Because I'm on my own, because I'm a freelancer, even though I have the Wix marketplace, it's not like I'm not in an agency setting where I just, show up at 9 a.m. every day and I'm given work from a project manager or boss or whatever. It's on me. So if I don't, make sure that's happening, it doesn't happen. I have found that outside of the Wix marketplace, the majority of the work that I get is just from people that I know or people in my networks. That's the schools I've gone to, the community groups, like just locally, like whatever like hobby or thing that you're into that involves knowing and meeting people. Get involved in all of these things and let all of the people within those circles know that you are a designer, you are looking for work, and you would like to work for them. People will come out of the woodwork, like your neighbor's cousin's dog walker will need a logo and they will find you. When I first started out, I ended up getting odd jobs from some of the strangest connections I did not expect to have. And those made all the difference. Those were the seed investment that is what enabled me to really get off the ground. So build a portfolio, network like crazy.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely know the feeling of like tapping into the community and realizing, well, everybody who has a small business needs a website. They all need logos, all of that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, which is huge, huge potential audience. And,
Yeah.
but yeah, thanks. So thanks for so much for taking the time to speak with me. This was really a great interview and a lot of fun to put together. I'm really excited to
Yeah.
put it
Thanks
up
so
on the
much.
blog.